Echo bosses and echo items are a new feature to Leagues 5. New weapons and new equipment means new strategies, and I really think that these bosses and their rewards are people's main consideration for what regions they're going to build around this year. So today, let's go through what I think are the strongest and most fun looking echo item builds. Just a quick caveat that this isn't considering combat relics or masteries, but just by combining a few of these items together, you come out with something that completely breaks the game. Let's start off with probably the biggest Leagues 5 meme build of this year, the Prayer build. It's built around the main weapon reward from the Varlamore region and focuses on enhancing the Sunlight Spear's special attack. This is a big AoE damage attack, and its damage is increased by 3% per point of prayer bonus that you have. So this build aims to maximize that with these region choices: Varlamore, Fremennik, and Kourend. Varlamore provides the majority of the power here, with the spear itself and the Sunfire Fanatic gear, which gives a combined 24 prayer bonus. The two jewelry echo boss rewards from Fremennik's Dagannoth Kings give a massive 20 prayer bonus on top of this, and Kourend also gives us access to the Devout Boots and the Rada's Blessing for a bit of extra prayer bonus. This takes up most of our equipment slots bar the cape and the glove slot, which ideally would be filled with something like Holy Wraps and the Soul Wars cape, and all of this brings your prayer bonus to a grand total of 62. Not only allowing you to leave your prayers on for a ridiculous amount of time, but also boosting the Sunlight Spear's slam damage by 186%. Now I think this build is going to be so much fun. Nuking through huge groups of mobs or even just doing a lot of single target damage, I really think this is just gonna go crazy. But, and there is unfortunately a but, this won't be an easy build to pull off. The Echo version of Soul Heredit is listed at Grandmaster difficulty, and judging by the fact that these are already harder versions of the original bosses, this one is going to be quite difficult to get a hold of. On top of that, you're going to have to grind the regular Colosseum God knows how many times to get a full set of the Sunfire Fanatic gear, and the rest of the items in the build also take a while to get a hold of, so at that point, all you're really doing is getting all of this together to flex to other players or just to have a play around with it, and I can see that novelty wearing off pretty quickly. It'll be fun to show off though, and I think that this is the Leagues 5 #1 meme build this year. Moving on, let's talk about GOREMAXXING. The Drygore Blowpipe is the Desert's Echo item, and at first, I'll admit, I didn't think much of this. You know, the stats don't look great. Sure, the special effect is quite impressive, you know, rolling for accuracy twice, taking the highest result. Its biggest drawback being that lack of range strength and your max hit potential being quite low. But that's where this build comes in, and it's really just to compensate for that lack of max hitting. For this, you'll need the regions Desert, Asgarnia, and Fremennik. Asgarnia and the Desert allow you to get Fortified Missouri, although it's worth noting that you really only need the base Missouri set for the range strength boost. Asgarnia also gives you the Zarite Vambraces and Pegation Crystal if you want to go out of your way to get ranger boots. Admittedly, that's going to be a nasty grind in of itself, but the range strength will be nice. And lastly, Fremennik gives you the Ava's Assembler and the incredible jewelry to boost that range strength even more. This brings a weapon that looks kind of average on paper all the way up to being able to do more damage per second than a twisted bow, and having more viable uses for it across the game as well. The biggest question mark next to this build is just that all of this falls by the wayside if you're not attacking every 2 ticks, because any missed attacks with this item will definitely bring its DPS down massively. So you better believe that you're going to need to sweat with this item to get the most out of it. This one is more a concept than a set build, and we're going to be going over the Vamp builds. This focuses on the other Echo item from Varlamore, the Sunlit Bracers, which increase any healing received by 100%. Picking Varlamore, Mauritania, and Fremennik give you 2 really good Life Leech builds. One centered around melee with the Guthans and Blood Fury, and sure, this isn't going to be the build that hits the hardest, but it will be the build that doesn't die to anything that isn't one-shotting you. And the other option revolves around magic and using the Blood Barrage spell on Ancient Magics. Two of the new Leagues 5 reveals make this build possible. The Grimoire Relic allows you to unlock ancient magics without needing the desert region, and in Leagues 5 we can get access to the Ancient Scepter with just the Fremennik region. So this build is going to use the Ancient Scepter with a near full set of Bloodbark armor and the Fremennik jewelry to spam some pretty hard-hitting Blood Barrage spells. Of course, the Sunlit braces being key here, doubling any heals you'll get from this, and I can just see this one being pretty ridiculous. Unfortunately, just like the prayer build that I talked about at the beginning, the Sunlit braces being locked behind Echo Soul are going to be a bit of a challenge to get a hold of, so I think this one's going to take, again, a little while to really show its full effectiveness. But being able to fully AFK a boss and, bragging rights over that, worth it. I couldn't really think of an appropriate name for this next build, so I'm going to leave that up to you guys, but I kind of like the idea of the Avatar. That's because this one focuses on exploiting all of the elemental weaknesses with Kandarin's Echo item, the Devil's Element. The key regions for this one obviously being Kandarin first of all, Fremennik for the Echo Jewelry, and your final region being a bit of a flex choice between Mauritania or Kourend. And this is mostly down to whichever elemental weapon you want to chase, the Nightmare Staff or the Kodai Wand. The idea behind this build is very simple. The Devil's Element doubles the effectiveness of elemental weaknesses exploited. Fremennik's jewelry gives you a crazy 20% magic damage boost on top of everything, and both the Nightmare Staff or Kodai Wand boost that by a further 15%. Should you pick Mauritania or Kourend though, if you're going down this sort of magic route? I think that's largely a personal preference, but generally speaking, Mauritania and the Nightmare Staff is more flexible for taking advantage of all of the elements. And the harmonized version of the Nightmare Staff will go really hard on top of all of that. And on the other hand, Kourend with the Kodai Wand is going to make water spells hit incredibly hard. I think this is going to be a super rewarding and fun magic combination for Leagues 5, but it is entirely dependent on the target having an elemental weakness. And a lot of people have been hating on it because of that. Despite that, I still think this is a far more creative magic build than just getting a shadow and trying to amp up your magic damage as much as possible. In either case, both of these region combinations enable you to chase a Tumakan shadow as well, because you'll be able to get a shadow, a scythe, a T-bow from all three raids now, so this really doesn't have to shoehorn you into just an elemental build. Alright, let's cover what I think is my second favorite Echo item build out of all of them. And this one is all about Taramwin's Echo item, the Crystal Blessing. This allows the crystal armor's accuracy and damage bonuses to carry over to any other melee weapon. So it's a very flexible Echo reward, and let me just state the obvious, more boring choices and get them out of the way first. The Soul Reaper axe is going to be great with this, the Scythe is going to be fantastic with it, but for this particular build, we are combining it with other Echo items. There are a few different region combinations for this build, and here are the ones that I've picked out. The Wilderness, Taramwin and Mauritania, the Wilderness, Taramwin and Fremennik, or Kourend, Taramwin and Fremennik. The first two region combinations here focus on transferring the crystal armor bonuses over to the Wilderness Echo items, particularly the Thunder Khopesh. Now the Khopesh has a 20% chance on successful hit to summon AoE Lightning. This lightning hits up to half of the original hit's damage, so increasing the accuracy and damage of this weapon is going to lead to more frequent lightning bolts with even more damage on the procs. So the gear is pretty simple. Full Crystal, a Crystal Blessing, the Thunder Khopesh, and the Thousand Dragon Ward makes sense as well. For the second build, pairing this with Mauritania instead of Fremennik, we drop the jewelry for something like a Blood Fury, which will be really nice for keeping us alive, and we also pick up the Gloves of the Damned, which is really nice. The second variant of this build drops the Khopesh for something a little more memey, the Nature's Reprisal. This is obtained in Kourend and it's capable of attacking with all attack styles, but we're only interested in the melee style. So this build transfers those crystal armor bonuses to a ranged melee weapon, and also gives it a pretty strong hybrid capability, because if you want to transfer those damage and accuracy bonuses over to range, you can just swap out to a Bofur. This combination of regions does capitalize on the extremely broken jewelry that Fremi offers, to really boost all of those stats even further. So as much as I think the Nature's Reprisal will be fun and a little bit of a meme build, unfortunately it's not even close, and the Wildy weapon just seems to outdamage pretty much everything right now. but you can't use it to attack from a distance, and I think that that is the essence of the fun there. And it's these combination of items that have definitely moved Tyrannwyn up in my estimations. As long as you don't have crippling PTSD from going almost 1000 KC dry for a Boffer on the main game, I think you're going to have fun with Tyrannwyn this league. Okay, we haven't talked about Barrows and the Gloves of the Damned, and there is a reason for that. First of all, these gloves boost the effectiveness of all Barrow set effects and their Amulet of the Damned set effects as well. The gloves acting as an Amulet of the Damned, so you won't need to go out of your way to get one of those, but I interpreted this one wrong. So on the original item description I got for this item, it said it doubles the effects of all of these things, and I just thought, oh, okay, cool, so we're doubling the chance of something to happen, usually, and we're also doubling the potency of whatever that effect is. So that's been cleared up now, and I'm not going to get into it because I'll probably just confuse things even further. But I had a great tank recoil based Darok build to go over here. I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this, and it's thrown a spanner in the works for a lot of Gloves of the Damned builds. So I've just had to, pick up all of these great ideas I have and throw them in the bin, essentially. Don't get me wrong though, Darok's is still going to be incredible when sitting at low HP, it's going to hit even harder. Arim's has a higher chance for spells to deal increased damage, but that increased damage isn't doubled. And Carol's is still going to get boosted to have a 50% chance to hit twice. So many of these Barrow sets come close to being something almost completely new, but unfortunately with this recent discovery, they're just left to kind of die out. We'll have to see if some of the other elements of Leagues 5 in Relics or Masteries alike can revive some of the hype around this item, but I haven't got any Barrows item builds for you. And there is one Echo item that I've not covered yet, the Dogsword. This weapon is almost entirely reliant on, firstly, the existence of a special attacking relic, and secondly, how good that special attacking relic is. I would bet all the GP I have that there is going to be a special attacking relic, but I have no idea what it's going to be yet. I guess we'll have to wait and see, and I'm going to have to put a pin on the Dogsword. I'm sure it's going to be incredible. Applying every God Sword effect is crazy, but there's just too many questions to really put something good together for the Dogsword right now. So they are the top 5 or 6 item builds that I think are absolutely game breaking. And which one of those is your favorite? Can you think of ways to make them even better? Are there any fun builds I've not mentioned that you're going for yourself? Make sure to comment it below because I would like to follow this up again once we have a better idea of Relics and Masteries. I'm sure there are many more big surprises to come. We are still early in reveal season, so make sure you're subscribed to this channel and drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. As always, I've got a link to my Discord in the description. Come join us to chat about Leagues 5. We're also hosting a Leagues 5 competition with some in-game prize pool up for grabs. But that is it from me today, so I will catch you all in the next one.